Everyone is always telling someone else that if they want an easy life or if they want to be a success, they should work hard, which is in fact correct. But if one is a person with high ambitions but low potential, then what can they do? The average person is not always going to be a success, since they aren't the only ones seeking this success. Through this journey, people always find themselves needing more in order to become the success they strive for, and that makes them greedy. So then that always takes one back to when it is said that to make life easier, one must work hard to become success. So greed brings one to success. However, I believe that the greedier a person is, the harder their lives become. As a kid, I always wanted to be wealthy, as that was my vision of success. Success can generally be seen as someone who has achieved a long-term goal, but success can also be temporary, and this temporary success can be seen through products owned or power possessed. There are many goals we subconsciously know we will not achieve, but the human brain is so marvelous that even though we actually know we will not get something or achieve something, we still hope for it. I thought that to become a success, I must set goals, and at the time, I didn't know I couldn't achieve such things. Yet I still tried to do it anyways. Reflecting on it now, it made me greedy. Wanting to be wealthy only made my life harder. I set all my goals so that they would lead me to being rich, but I already had what was truly needed, which was a decent shelter, decent food stock, and decent upcoming education. Nonetheless, I was determined to get something better than the ordinary. And it's not a negative thing, however, this made me crave extra and made me greedy. And through working more, I made my life far more difficult than it was supposed to be. A lot of things aren't necessarily quickly achieved through working hard, however, and because of this, I found myself demotivated. The time one finds trying to feed their greed is a colossal factor. Through the greediness individuals possess in order to get to where they want to, problems arise. When someone is greedy, they usually think for themselves only. Through time, I began to become this type of person. I was always finding out things that made me shine, and of course, through that process, I had people help me out. But I never gave credit to them. I realized most of my talents came from my parents and how they raised me, but I never liked the fact that someone made me who I am, which in fact made me selfish and greedy. This is when I realized that one goes from being greedy to being greedy and selfish, which pretty much go hand in hand. But when a person is selfish, they take away from others. When somebody is to take away from another, it causes problems, and thus one is just not making their lives hard, but someone else's as well. Before I reached high school, I was a person who would rather work independently and never in a group. Or if I was forced in a group, I wouldn't share my ideas. I mostly noticed this when I attended Bear Creek Middle School. Sometimes the teachers would be so lenient on us that we were grouped, and I would always end up being the quiet kid or even that person who did all the work. The scenario I remember most involving this was when I was 9. I was in the 4th grade, and that probably was the thing that made my year the hardest. That day, our teacher told us that we will have a long-term project that was due at the end of the year, and she explained the science project so vividly that I could already see the end result in my head. She made the project so clear to all of us, but she added additional things such as working in groups. She said that we could work in groups, and that for every group member there was a 5-point deduction from a total grade of 150. So basically, anyone who worked by themselves aimed at a whole 150 points. And the more people you have, the less points you have, but the more you're guaranteed to get them. That was a life lesson learned. I chose to work by myself, and I was struggling to get the project done, while my other peers easily finished the project. When it came down to grading it, I ended up getting a lower grade than those who worked together, and since then I realized that my selfishness and greed towards the high grade made my life harder. So when I didn't help out others, when I just unwillingly didn't want to, it was like telling them I wasn't going to help them reach their goals because I wanted to reach mine first, which is the mentality wealthy people have nowadays. But it causes tension with those who don't have what a rich person has, and it makes greed be distributed both ways. When both people gain this greed, then again both of their lives become more difficult than it's supposed to be. So let's say one fulfills the greed completely and becomes a success. What is after that? If one has everything, one makes their life easier to other people's eyes, but in reality one finds themselves with nothing to do anymore. One has everything one could ever ask for. Then by making their life easier, one truly just made it as complex as it could be. Through my experiences growing up and getting a dose of reality, I realized, why do I want to be rich? If I was to be a success, I should settle with just being who I am and not an overachiever who's aiming to become rich. I told myself I am not the only person who's trying to be wealthy. This is what society wants everyone to be like, selfish, but I didn't allow myself to be that way anymore. I wasn't going to make my life harder just so I can have prosperity. I'd rather be a person who enjoys life period than a person who stresses over making a strong capital. I thought about it and knew that even if I became wealthy, what would I do then? I have achieved my goal, but I would have done it by taking the opportunity from others and taking everything for myself. What would I do then? If I had it all, and it's pretty much impossible to take additional things if I had it all. So maybe if people weren't so greedy and actually gave humbleness a try, they would find themselves less conflicted with themselves and others. Since then, I believe that what makes life easier is the fact that one can embrace life itself, and maintaining minimal conflict or selfishness is what makes life worthwhile. A quote that can relate to this, even though not exact, is the following: "You will not be punished for your anger, you will be punished by your anger," which was the belief of the great Buddha. It is all related to me believing that the greedier a person is, the harder their lives become.